All right, moving on. We're up to chapter 6 of the Memoir Mastery, a step-by-step guide to writing your life story. Chapter 6, Finding Your Voice and Style. And we're going to start right in to section 1, Defining Your Personal Writing Style. So if you're ready, let's just get right into it. Defining your own personal writing style is like finding your signature scent, your favorite perfume, the one that your favorite lipstick, the thing that you wear every day that's just, it becomes you. And anyone who sees or smells that scent, that color, they just know that's you. So your writing style is the same thing. It's almost like your signature. They learn how you write, and you're going to gain fans who migrate to your specific style. So it's important to let that flow through you and be as natural and authentic as you can. But at the same time, if there's areas that you find are not your best direction, you can just kind of fine tune that. But basically, here's a few reasons why defining your personal writing style is so important, and it really is. Number 1, it sets you apart. First and foremost, absolutely, you need to be someone different from all of the others out there. There's a lot of people who are writing. It's a crowded market. Let's just be real about that. And having your own writing style creates a more memorable reading experience for your audience. 2, it reflects your personality, or it should. Now, your personal writing style reflects your personality, your individuality as a writer, and it's a reflection on your unique tone, your voice, your perspective, your attitude, your belief systems. All of that comes through in the way you write. So it will help readers connect with you on a deeper level. 3, it creates consistency. Defining your personal writing style will help you be more consistent in your writing. It helps maintain a clear and a cohesive voice throughout your work. And it creates kind of a more polished, I guess is a way to describe it, a more polished and professional reading experience for your audience. Your reader will start the book and they'll get to know you. And by the end of the book, they know you, because here they're getting to know you, but then they know you because they've learned how you write. It's the consistency. Readers really, really do prefer that. So don't underestimate the value of it. Number 4, it helps you find your niche. Now, this is really important, and it may not seem like it for a memoir because you're telling your story and you may not have another story. This may be a one and done project for you, and that's okay. But here's the thing. Whatever your story is, there is a certain demographic, a certain type of reader out there who wants to read your story. So if you have your special and your personal writing style, it does make it easier for your niche, those people who are looking for your type of story, to find you. So again, don't underestimate the value of really honing in on your voice. It's very important, and it shows your passion. Now, number 5, it adds authenticity to your work. Now, by this, I mean that it helps you create an honest, a general, or a genuine portrayal of your experiences, of your beliefs, of who you are. And again, it creates that genuine and a deeper connection with your reader because they are trusting through your consistent writing that you really are who you say you are. And that means something to your readers. Number 6, it helps you develop your voice. And when I say a writing style, it really is almost the same thing as your voice. So your voice is, whether you speak it or whether you type it, it could be two different styles. Now, at work, I write differently than I draft an email differently than I would draft an email personally. So you have your different voices. You're still you, but you have your different voices. And that style, your personality can come through in both of those. You can still be kind, you can be funny, you can be lighthearted in both situations, but your specific voice is who you are, and that's how you can actually be both, and your reader would know. They're just writing something professional right now, that's still them, but the voice. Number 7, it makes writing easier. And, I always say, everyone says it, but, work smarter, not harder. When you have something that's consistent, when you do something consistently, it becomes almost like a muscle memory. It's just the way you do it, and everything becomes easier at that point. So when you do that, it actually becomes more natural. It's almost conversational. So like I'm talking to you right now, I would be typing pretty much exactly the same way. Now, when I type versus speak, I do throw out extra words, but it's always going to be the same voice, the same tone. I'm not going to change from extremely stiff and professional to, woo, go wild and crazy. I'm always going to be me, which is somewhere in the middle, a little closer to crazy. But just always try to find that, because easy is not a bad thing. Number 8, it can attract a specific audience. Now, this is important because if you have you're writing a memoir, and let's say it's going to be about this one piece of your life in your past or in your present, whatever, and that it's going to be, let's say, single moms or divorced women after 45, maybe that's the person that you want. You may need to fine tune your own voice and your style into something that would attract and resonate with your demographic a little bit better. Now, I challenge you not to change yourself for your readers, because your real reader would still want you the way you are. So don't try to become a chameleon. Don't try to, don't change you. Stay authentic. But sometimes, like if you drop an F-bomb constantly, you may need, if this is about a time in your life where you found God, you may want to stop the F-bombs for a little while. And that doesn't mean you're changing who you are. It just means that you don't want to offend your preferred reader, because you want maybe that reader to know that swearing isn't, opposite of what your faith is. And you may have a message there that you can bring those things together in the end and still be authentic. But you do need to be aware that some audiences will want to hear something in a certain way. So just be aware of that. And then number 9, it adds value to your work. So what I mean by that is basically it creates a more cohesive, a more polished reading experience. It looks more professional, whether it's your language is professional or not. Just the consistency, the start to finish, the ability for a reader to come in, get engaged, and stay engaged without having to try to figure out what in the world you're saying, that adds value to your work. So don't ever underestimate your own value by, getting a little crazy. Sometimes crazy is good, but stay somewhere in the balanced lines. And then finally, it just helps you stay motivated. When you have a personal writing style, it actually will help you stay motivated and keep yourself, I guess, inspired. By identifying the elements that make your writing unique, you can stay focused on your goals. You're looking forward. You can continue to grow and develop as a writer, but then you actually still enjoy the journey. Sometimes if you let yourself get stressed, you're going to not enjoy this as much, and that's going to be normal at times. You're going to get stressed. You're going to wonder, why am I even doing this? Who's even going to read this? You're going to ask all these questions that make you have self-doubt. But I want you to recognize that just some of these tips that I'm giving you, they're really going to help you stay focused, stay moving forward, stay motivated, and most importantly, stay happy, stay fulfilled. So whatever you do, just understand that as you go through this, you're going to maintain your relationship with your readers. You're going to be engaging with your readers. It helps you stand out in a crowded market. Of course, your readers will understand you on a deeper level this way. And if nothing else, you have learned who you are. And that's something that no one will ever take away from you. Once you come out on the other side of your memoir, you have really delved into something, and that's amazing. So own your voice, but craft your voice. And if you're ready, don't hesitate to have some fun and let your creativity soar. Moving right along, let's move on to the role of humor, emotions, and tone. So if you're ready, we're gonna jump right into this. There's really a lot of importance in the role of humor and obviously emotion, but did you know that you could actually change a story with your tone? So it's really important when you think of a memoir. It's kind of like a roller coaster. It's just emotions, and you as the protagonist or the main character, you're the one who is on that roller coaster, and you're trying to pull people onto the roller coaster with you, not because you want them afraid or anything, but because you know that where you are now is probably a better place than where you were when you first got on that scary ride. And you know that there's people out there who are going through similar situations, and that they probably could use a hand. That if you're able to figure out how to reach them and connect with them, that they will read your story and they'll be like, ooh, dang, I need to make sure that I don't do what they did, and that I do what they did finally, only I do it a whole lot sooner. So when you kind of figure out what your reason for writing your memoir is, you realize how important it is not just to share your own story, because it is important to share your story for yourself, but it's really important to help others as well. But sometimes other people, they may not be on the same page with you yet, and you need to find them where they are. So sometimes using the humor is a really great way to connect with them. Your emotions and your tone, we use tone a lot other than as a mom, with that kind of a tone, but it is a vital part of communicating and communicating through written word. So here's just a few reasons why understanding the role of humor, emotion, and tone is so important. Number one, humor adds levity, and I believe we've talked about this, but it can help break up a heavy or an emotional topic, and it creates more engaging and relatable experience for your reader. Your reader doesn't want to walk in the door and just be burdened with all of the negativity and all of this, and they're like, I can do negative by myself. Tell me something funny, do something that makes me feel like there's hope here. So add some humor for your reader. They'll appreciate it, and it'll help you as well. Number 2, emotion creates connection. Now, we've talked about this as well. Emotion is so important when you're writing, because if your reader is not going to connect with you, they're not going to want to keep reading your story, and then you can't help them. So make sure that you make that emotional connection with them. They'll get in there with you. They'll go through the journey with you, and they'll come out the other end happier, and hopefully you can have saved them the years or the heartache. Now, number 3, tone sets the mood. So tone can create a sense of nostalgia, anticipation, reflection, depending on how you phrase things. You set the tone for your reader. The tone can also create a unique voice for your memoir that helps it stand out. So like if your tone is, oh, I'm so excited and I'm getting married and I am so in love and I'm just thrilled, and then I got a divorce. You're like, whoa, okay. I don't really see the emotions there. You were happy, okay, great. But then you got a divorce, and you cut it off. You're too short on what happened when things changed. And the reader would not understand, well, how did you get from here to here? How did you end up divorced? Were you blindsided by it, or what happened? So you really want to change your tone as your journey goes through. So be authentic. You're not changing your tone in a fake way, but you're sharing the time lapse, and you're letting them know, everything was great until it wasn't. And then it was that one day everything changed. And then let your tone get heavier. So your tone really, really sets the mood of what you're writing. Number 4, humor can enhance the emotional impact. It can create contrast between lighter and heavier moments, and it makes the emotional moments even more powerful that way. 5, emotion can make your story more memorable. It can help your readers understand your experience in a more profound way that actually creates a lasting impact on their lives. Now, make sure when you do this that you're impacting them in the way that you want to, because you really will have an impact on other people's lives with your written words. Number 6, your tone can reflect the theme of your entire memoir. For example, if your memoir is about overcoming adversity, a hopeful or a resilient tone can reinforce, the message that I'm not giving up. I'm going to fight forward. I'm going to push. I'm going to make my voice be heard. And when you say that, your tone, your reader picks that up. You don't have the ability to necessarily increase your volume in written word. So you have to do that through tone, and you absolutely can. Number 7, humor, again, can reveal character. Now, I love this because it shows your readers your unique voice and perspective and makes the story more engaging to the reader. But it's not just the character that they get to know, it's you. You are the character at some point in your life, but through this method, you're also letting them get to know you now. So you probably will have other people reach out to you, assuming this is something that you take public. They'll probably reach out to you. They'll probably share their experiences that, that they related to. And using that humor in there will show them, this is who I was. This is the really tough time I went through, and this is me now. And I'm happy, and this and this. And you may be the one who gives them hope, because if they've gone through similar things as you, then your humor, your happiness, your tone of that way is going to help them know that there is better days ahead. Now, number 8, emotion can also inspire empathy. And this is really just another way of saying they relate. Because when someone feels empathy for you, it's not pity. It's that they feel it for you, that they understand what you're going through. It's not that they just like, oh yeah, she was sad, great, whatever. Because that person who would think that is not empathetic. And sometimes you have people who are more empathetic than others in readers. So you want to make sure that you find some sort of a balance where you are certain that you are using emotion to draw in and engage your readers who are empathetic. But the ones who simply aren't, they're not going to be reached by probably any book. So do the best you can. You won't reach everybody, but you will if you'll come close if you make sure to use proper emotion in there. And you can't use proper emotion unless you are open and honest. And that's sometimes the hard part, but that's what you need to do. Throw the emotion out there. Just, wear your emotion on your sleeve for the book. And, I believe that you're going to really touch some people. Now, number 9, tone can create suspense. The tone of your memoir can create suspense, tension, especially if you're writing, about a particularly dramatic or emotional event. If there's abuse, if it was a broken relationship or something like that. Don't be afraid to use that tone in those situations, because again, you can't raise your voice. They can't see you cry. You have to use your words and your tone to really break through that flat piece of paper and become more dimensional. And then 10, humor and emotion work together. And this is one of the biggest things. And it's not just humor and emotion, but if you can blend a couple of different things, that really is where you start adding even more depth. But humor and emotion, they're some of the best ways to really balance your deep with your happy. Kind of keep things from getting too down or too but basically, it creates that balance, and it makes you more authentic, in that let me see how to say this. If you're going through hell, you're not 24/7 going through hell. There's usually going to be something, in your day. Something will happen. Maybe your dog or your cat will come up and cuddle with you, and that that brief moment, maybe you'll see, the cat will come up and nuzzle your shirt or something. If you can throw something like that in, that will give your reader and you the happiness level that you need to keep flipping that page, because you just don't want to stay dark for too long. Now, so overall, just remember, incorporating the humor, emotion, and tone into your memoir is very important. It creates a more compelling and engaging story. And by understanding the role of these elements, you can create a more memorable and impactful reading experience for your audience. And that's really what this is about. when you put it into book form. Now, if you are just going through it for personal use, then you don't need to worry as much about how you phrase things. Just enjoy the experience for yourself. But if you're going to put it in book form for other people to read, it really is important that you put in the extra effort, and just you'll much more prefer it as well, because I can tell you personally, I've reread things that I've written as memoirs, and when I see the ones that I was just kind of like journaling for myself, I kind of remembered, and some of the things that I experienced, I even forgot. So it's kind of interesting how over the years you'll forget your own memories even. But then if you really focus on your tone and the emotions, and really being visual with the way you word things, just even rereading those later, I'm like, wow, I do remember that. And things that you may not have remembered otherwise will just come pouring back to you. So it really is important. Use those emotions and we'll keep on moving. As I say, get out there, have some fun, and let your creativity soar. All right, so now we're going to move on to crafting compelling dialogue. Now, we've talked about dialogue before if you've been following through the course, but we're going to go a little bit deeper in now and really talk about how to craft compelling dialogue. So if you're ready, let's just jump right in. So when you craft compelling dialogue in your memoir, it's like bringing life to your story. It allows your readers to hear the voices of the people that you interacted with back in your experience, and they hear your conversations. Like I've used before, they're kind of like the fly on the wall in the room. They know what happened. They know just as well as you know what happened. It doesn't matter what the other person says, because they know, because they read it through dialogue. So they get immersed in there. They feel like they experienced it. So that really does add authenticity to the reader. The reader is much more engaged, and they feel like this was the realistic experience. Make sure when you use dialogue, and of course you're not going to remember exactly what your conversation may have been, so you'll paraphrase it as a dialogue, but you still have the meaning of what happened. And don't forget, we always have to be honest and not disparage the other people in that conversation. Be honest and truthful about what happened, what was said, to the best of your recollection. But another thing, dialogue adds that drama, that sense of drama. So if you get in a fight with someone and they call you names and you call them names, and it's just like all this craziness is going on, and your reader's like, oh, they're getting involved in the drama with you. They feel what you went through, and that's what you want, and that's what they need. So make sure that you use that dialogue to bring in the drama. Dialogue also reveals character. So when you do this, it can show your reader the nuances of the people that you interacted with, and it makes your story more complex. What I mean by that is basically your say you're in an argument, and you're going through the fight, and maybe instead of you're both yelling at each other, maybe you're crying and you feel broken and you feel betrayed, and maybe they're just still bashing at you, and you can talk about through your dialogue how you felt, and you can talk about through your dialogue out, why are you doing this? You didn't have to lie about this. You could have just told me. If you use that kind of a dialogue, what you're showing your reader is you're trying to understand, you're trying to have a conversation, you're trying to communicate, where the other person is just like, I'm done with this. So use that dialogue to not only create the drama, but to develop your characters, for the reader to understand, who really was the procuring cause of that argument. Those are the things that you can do through dialogue. Now, another thing, dialogue, it adds variety. So it can cause or create this break between describing things. Now, if you're doing a narrative, you can say, we did this, we did this, we did this, and your reader's going to get tired of you telling the story. So I am a huge proponent of really encouraging people to use as much dialogue as you can, because it's going to go deep into your emotions. It's going to engage much more often, and it will break up those moments where you really don't want to go deep enough into your story to tell every conversation, because no one wants to know about why you asked someone to borrow $3. No one, you don't need to talk about every conversation, but the conversations that matter need to be in dialogue form. So definitely let it add some variety, and it can add the humor. So it can show the humor of the people. If you're out at an amusement park or a fair with someone, and they say something funny to you, let that show the character and create some humor. You could say, first one to the elephants wins or something. I don't know. You could but let it be light and funny at times too. Dialogue also conveys information. Now, this is really important because you can put your information, there's a thing called info dumping, and you don't want to info dump. So when you info dump, you're basically telling someone, not showing, you're telling someone this, and it might mean you like, this person married this person who married this person who married this person, had this kid, married this person. That's like an info dump. And no one wants to read that. I mean, and I'm not bashing the Bible at all, but one of the hardest parts to read is the begets, because you're like, oh my gosh, I can't. And so don't info dump your reader. Let them know what happened through dialogue. So a quick and easy way of dialoguing instead of begetting is, you could say, I called my mom, and mom called her sister Ann, and Aunt Ann's husband Bill. They're all having dinner right now. So you can kind of put all of that information into a dialogue, and it's so much easier to read. It's so much easier to understand, and your reader will thank you. I promise you that. Dialogue can also create conflict. And by doing that, now conflict is conflict, and dialogue isn't going to create it in real life. But what I mean by this is, if you have conflict, if there's a fight, if there is something that's in your way, and the conflict is already there, if you tell the reader about it, you're going to miss your mark there. You need to use dialogue in that case and really pull it straight in. So, maybe someone cheated on you, and you go to their door, and you're like, knock, knock, knock. And she's like, why did you do this? And they're like, I can't talk to you about this right now. And you're like, I just need to understand. And they're like, but I it's over. It's just over. And when you have that dialogue in any sort of conflict, it really strengthens the emotional connection that your reader will have in a situation where there is conflict. It will match the emotions of what you experienced. So don't weaken your experience by telling about it. make the experience real to your reader by using dialogue to convey that. And then this one is pretty interesting. Number 8, I've got that it can reveal cultural differences. Now, this is one of those things that you may not really think about, but depending on the purpose of your memoir, dialogue is it's a way to reveal cultural differences and provide insight into the social and the historical context of your memoir. It can show how people from different backgrounds and different cultures interact with each other or with you, and how they communicate to create a richer, more nuanced portrayal of your experiences. So what that means is maybe you grew up as a minority in a classroom. I've been in several classrooms where I've been the only white person, and whatever your situation is, when you use that dialogue, you don't have to say I was the only white person, but you can use the dialogue to convey that. If there's things out there, some people tend to have bias. If there's bias, you can convey that better through their honest, if it was honest, dialogue. But it's much better to do that than to speak it through judging them, because when you say that judgmentally, you're going to come across as the one who's judging them for something that they shouldn't be doing, but they are. So it's just better to give the reader the ability to interpret for themselves and to make their own judgment. That way you're not judging anyone. Number 9, dialogue creates intimacy. And of course, again, just like the conflict, the intimacy is already there in your story. You just need to make the intimacy have meaning. So say you've fallen in love and you're looking in each other's eyes and you're about to have that first kiss. Maybe you're falling in love, because you probably won't have already fallen in love. But anyway, you're getting ready to have that first kiss. And you're having that really intense conversation where you can't look away from each other, and you're trying to, just think of something to say, and you can put like the little stammer marks, but make that conversation go back and forth, and just the tension, the sexual tension, the intimacy, any of that, you can create that through dialogue much better than you can by telling that story. And then finally, number 10, it can make your story memorable. Crafting compelling dialogue can make your story more memorable and unique. It's authentic, and it comes from your soul when you write these things. If you don't use the dialogue, though, you're going to leave emotions at the table, and you just don't want to do that. By understanding the importance of crafting compelling dialogue, you should, and I believe will, be able to create a much more authentic, memorable memoir. And on that, here we go. If you're up with me until now, let's get you out there, have some fun, and let your creativity soar. All right, so now we're on to section 4, and we're going to talk about the top 10 tips of finding your unique voice. So if you're ready, let's get started. So finding your unique voice when writing a memoir is like finding your personal style. I like to wear classics, or I always have a leather purse, whatever it is, it's you. And so finding your unique voice is going to become the same thing, you. It's going to take a little bit of time. As you get through this, though, it is going to become much more simple and streamlined. But number 1, write like you talk, and Sometimes you may talk a little too casually, but even then, especially in a memoir, I recommend just be authentic, write like you talk. Don't type it is, it is, it is. Say it's, because you talk, you probably say it's. So don't hesitate to use some slang. Obviously, if you want people to read it, you don't want to be overly offensive. But again, if you're being authentic, then sometimes you may be offensive to some people. But write like you talk. Number 2, don't be afraid to be yourself. That's kind of an extension of number 1. Don't conform to other people's expectations of you. This is your memoir, your story, your journey. Let it be that. Don't be afraid to be who you really are. Number 3, read widely. What I mean by that is read other people's memoirs. Read the successful ones, the ones that you maybe never heard of because maybe they weren't as successful. But there's some that are, just very well loved, and it doesn't have to necessarily be from someone who was famous, because sometimes their fame makes it a bestseller automatically. But if you find the bestseller memoirs that weren't famous people, you may find some incredible memoirs there. So read widely, figure out, their styles, figure out who you are, how you compare to them, how you contrast, and then that will help you find your own voice as well. Number 4, practice writing every day. Now, some people will say, I'm too busy, I just don't have time to do this. You do. Even if it means taking an iPad into the bathroom with you. You've got 3 minutes, you've got 5, you've got 10 minutes. You can find some time each day to spend with yourself, for yourself, going through something like this. A lot of people really, they don't triage their time properly. And, maybe the priority shouldn't be to watch 3 hours of TV every night. And I'm not judging that, because I've done the same thing. But if this is important to you, and it should be, because it really will help work through some of these things that you've gone through in your life, and sharing those stories, but you need to prioritize this. You need to find a little bit of self-discipline and practice writing every day. Number 5, experiment with different writing styles. And what I mean by that is, your voice. But like we've talked about, you're more casual here, you're more formal here. You have different styles. Figure out which one suits you the best. You'll know what you're more comfortable with. You'll know when you're able to just start typing and it just flows out of you. When that happens, that's probably your style right there. Now, number 6, focus on your strengths. Identify what your strengths as a writer are and focus on developing those things first. Now, you're going to have weaker areas that you'll probably want to catch up as well. But at first, go with where you're already strong and get better. You do have the ability to be, because you just create more memorable work when you get really good at some things. And then number 7, write with purpose. Identify what the purpose of your memoir is and write to that destination. Always keep your eye on that goal. Now, you will probably at times want to throw in, about you and dad going for the ice cream cone, because that's a great memory and your reader will probably appreciate that too. It gives your character extra depth, and so don't take those out necessarily, but always keep your main focus on your destination and your end goal of where your story is going to end. Keep that in mind, and then that way you're not always like squirrel, 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 because I promise you, a lot of us are easily squirreled. Number 8, share your personal experiences. and, just your personal experiences, your emotions, how going through this made you feel. Again, using your dialogue, but share those emotions, and it will help the reader really understand you. And when that reader understands you, they're rooting for you. And that's what we need, right? We want to know that we didn't go through all of this and felt alone all those years, all those weeks, all the whatever, through that time. You felt alone and you felt like, I may not make it through this, but knowing that later, as you share your story, that someone else is right there with you, it makes everything feel so much better. You're stronger, they're stronger. It's just an amazing end result. So number 9, and I've said this before, edit ruthlessly. Things that mean something to you may not mean anything to your reader. So you either need to make sure, either by going back and editing, that, maybe you need to, instead of leaving the ice cream scene in, maybe you take it out because it has no meaning and it just doesn't feed your character at all. Maybe this, maybe that. But if it really does give your character depth, which it entirely could, you don't want to delete it maybe, what you would want to do is edit and then go back to something else, and kind of, it's called foreshadowing. We may talk about it later in one of my other videos. Make sure you're subscribed, by the way. But when you have some foreshadowing earlier, where you talk about, your, maybe, I don't want to call it daddy issues, or but maybe you're a daddy's girl or a tomboy, and maybe when you started to turn into a young lady, things got awkward, whatever it is. You can set it up back here and then land it in a later part of your memoir, and really it'll mean a lot to your reader at that point, because they already know how you felt here. And then for, having that ice cream trip or whatever it is, that special moment that means something to you will now mean something to your reader too. But if you can't make it make sense, if you can't make your reader feel what you felt, then you want to cut that out. Remember, you don't delete anything. You want to cut that out, paste it into a different document, let it be there. Don't get rid of it, but just take it out of this story, because not every story is meant to be in this story, and keep that part in mind. And number 10, just be patient. Be patient with yourself, be patient with the process. Finding your unique voice takes time, it takes practice, and be patient and just keep writing. You will find it, and sometimes you may get lucky and it's just natural. It'll just drop straight out. Other times it's going to take practice. But as you get there, you're gonna be so glad that you took the time, that you took the effort, and you're gonna have an amazing memoir. So here we are. We're getting ready to go on into the next chapter. I'm gonna release you with, get out there, have fun, and let your creativity soar.